Well, welcome to my spring diary. I can't think of many winters in years gone by where it's just been so wet. You can tell by the water levels behind me, the amount of rain has been incredible at times, and it's made for what was a really miserable cold time through the winter. And you get a day like today, and you know what, it's just great to be out. So it's great to be down the lake, just doing some trimming. The work never stops here, there's always something to do. And yeah, to be fair, it's a place that I gravitate to even when I've done all the work. It's just a nice place to be. So what I'm doing at the moment is just snipping this area down, clearing loads of brambles and starting to clear some of this foliage here. And what's really important for the longevity and the maintenance of a fishery and for the well-being of the fish is to get light onto the water, and the sun tracks round here. As you can see now, we're at sort of midday and it's coming straight onto me. But the problem with a lot of these branches and a lot of these trees, they shield the light getting onto the lake. And in this little secluded bay here, we've got the depths of down sort of 9-10 foot, and if we don't get light penetration, none of the marginal plants will grow. So as good as snags are, they actually can be quite invasive, and they can have a negative effect on a little bay. So I'm clipping the trees, getting some light on there, and I'll work myself into this area and take some of these trees out eventually, get loads of light penetration. The water warms quickly, the fish spend more time here, there's more available food. So I've got a bit of a job on, but yeah, it's good fun to be out. Well, that hopefully should get a bit more light into this bay. I've still got loads of work to do, to be fair, but hey, it's nice to make a start on it. But if the truth be known, I haven't done loads of fishing this winter. I usually get out all the time, but I've had so much going on at Baitworks. We're recruiting a new factory supervisor, so that's taken up a huge amount of time through the interview process, as well as bringing out a new bait, the Crimino. So those two things alone has meant that I've been burning the midnight oil, trying to get everything sorted from packaging all the way through to the final sort of test baits, if you like, particularly all the balance baits. So it's meant my time's been really limited. But do you know what? This winter I haven't missed much, I don't think. I'm keeping regular contact, obviously, with the guys sort of down here, and that influx of water that have come in over since October, hasn't stopped raining, has it? It's been crazy. And since that water's come in, the water levels have come up 2 or 3 foot, influx of cold water, and what's happened? No guesses, no prizes for this one. The fish have gone to ground. So what generally that means is if there's no one putting bait in to keep them moving and keep them active, those fish can end up lying up in weed beds into silt, and invariably they get lots of parasites on them in the shape of argillus, and which is a tiny little like limpet style parasite, very small, 5 mm in size, which can creep all over the body, and also the classic leeches. Now the leeches can attach themselves everywhere, but generally the underside of the fish's mouth, around the fins, on the pecs, and it's a sure sign that the fish have been just lying dormant somewhere. And that's the danger. If they go in that dormant state, you're hoping for a miracle to bring them out of it, and it usually either comes in the form of a big storm to move them, or with the light levels changing, and that is absolutely key, particularly at this time of year. And it generally, when nature tells you this, you get the blossoms on the blackthorns, you get the daffodils are out, the clocks are just about to go back, and that increased light levels through the day, nature is waking up, and that's their trigger, and they're up and about and they're moving. And these two lakes here, although they're not the same depth, so you'd think one would wake up earlier than the other, exactly the same day it done a fish on each of the lakes, and that's absolutely tells me those light levels are all rising and those fish are up and about now. And to come down and to walk the lakes is something I'm hugely passionate about. Even if I'm not fishing, I'm getting my fishing fix by just being around the lakes and doing some maintenance. But there are the odd guys who do come and give it their best in the winter, and fair play to them because they reap the rewards. And my good friend Mark Harris, who's been plugging away on here all winter and hasn't done a fish for months, and then that fateful day you get a tiny bit of change in the conditions, the sun comes out, light levels increase like I said, and bang, he goes and catches one of the fish that I put in at only £6, and it's a fish now that has grown in stature and grown in size, and Mark's caught in. There's an absolute battle, big chiseled scales on it, and it's the reason I believe why we all go carp fishing. So amazing to see. So yeah, coming down to see Mark, great to see that fish, and just rewards for all the effort that he's put in over the winter months. But I'm sure you agree, it's an absolute belter.
Well done, Mike.
Oh, it's cold.
Well, I feel more like Monty Don than a fisherman, but the work never stops, but hey, that's why I love it. Now this is a dogwood. I'm going to take this dogwood right to the base, right back, and it looks quite barbaric, but in actual fact it regenerates growth. So this hasn't been cut back for probably the 5 years that it was planted, so by cutting it back it stimulates loads and loads of new growth. So and I can replant some of these offshoots like that one into the ground and regenerate elsewhere. So yeah, really important job, one I really look forward to this time of year. And I'm sure you agree, that fish that Mark had, what a fish that was. That'll warm your cockles. But do you know what? Funny enough, that same week, well that same day, I got a call from Mike who caught a small one, just a little one, so that was one of the first ones to wake up. And it wasn't long after that he'd caught 3 in a night. And those fish, just to back up what I said earlier, were absolutely covered in parasites and leeches. But hey, the fish are on the wake, which is great, but it's great to go over and see Mike to see these fish.
Well, this morning couldn't have gone any better. This is the first one that I'm going to get out, which is a lovely 29 pound 8 ounce common. I got a bigger one in the sling, and unfortunately I've just had another one, bit of a schoolboy error, because it just escaped out the net. So fortunately that wasn't very big, but still schoolboy error on my part. Lovely. Absolutely covered in leeches. All the carp I've caught, I thought I removed all these this morning, but there's big bunches of them everywhere. It's a lovely bar of gold. Cold Cotswold gold, I say. And despite me being very, very happy to catch 3 in the morning, I know my hands are going to be stinging in a minute. But he's a beautiful carp. Look at that. Get rid of a few of these leeches a minute, because in the spring you see them crashing out, and it's almost, you know, it's not a feeding crash. You see them as if they're itching something or trying to get rid of something. It's almost like an erratic bosh, and that's often why they're always at their best when they just come out the other side of winter, don't they? Oh yes. Very cold, once again very happy, and it couldn't have gone any better. Let's show you the other side. Not too sure my hands are going to hold out because they're absolutely freezing. Beautiful. Let's get you back, and let's tend to your bigger brother. Off you go. They're still very, very lethargic, aren't they? Oh, might need to warm my hands up a minute because they're freezing before I attempt to pick that other one up. Well, I've got to get my hands cold again because this is another cold water carp, and as I mentioned, he's bigger than the first one. So the first one was 29.5, and this one, remember rightly, last night it was 36.5. That's right, 36.8. If there's any proof that the carp just settled down in the weed next to the sediment, because that mouth is covered, and you can tell with these little red bits, actually I think it's irritated the carp's mouth, but it's covered in leeches. And of course those leeches only have the opportunity to jump in there when the carp are semi-dormant or lying on the bottom. They're not going to jump in there and cling on to the carp while the carp's active and get around the lake. So clearly, obviously at the back end of winter now, they're up and about now for sure, because obviously we're catching them. But yeah, that tells me they haven't been doing much. But let's get rid of them because that must be so uncomfortable. Let's get you back. Well done, fella. Oh, there you go. You can go back now. Big, framed, very cold Cotswold carp, but happy, very happy. Shame about the one that escaped out of the net, but definitely these two will do. Go on, fella, get yourself back. Hope you feel a bit better after I removed all those leeches. Go and enjoy the spring.
Well, do you know what? Seeing those fish, nothing like seeing fish on the bank. And yeah, it gets you fired up, particularly this winter. The embers have been smouldering, but I must admit, with all the water that's gone in, and it's been such a dire winter, I haven't really got out. But seeing those fish just sparks me to get around the lake. And do you know what? On my dog walks, I have been seeing a few fish, not loads, but I've been seeing a few, and they're just starting now to get into the edge. And particularly as the light levels are increasing, the sun's out and they're just chasing the sun at the moment. I have spotted a few fish getting into some of the corners. Some of them are flicking off the snags, getting rid of the old leeches and that's the sure sign that the fish have woken up and they're getting around the ponds. And as the temperature rises, our metabolism's rising, their eyesight's getting better, they're even wanting to get into areas and feed as well. So with that in mind, I'm going to trickle a bit of bait into a few areas and see if I can create a little opportunity in the edge, because they are getting into the edge where probably a few weeks ago they were just out in the middle of the pond still. So I'm going to put a bit of bait into a couple of areas, keep an eye on it and see what happens. You never know, I may be able to sneak a bite. So I'm going to get some of my tackle ready. Some of this hasn't been looked at since Christmas, to be fair. Got to sort all my hook baits out, sort a couple of rigs out, but I'm going to pop this in the car. And on my dog walks, you never know, I just may find a couple of carp. Wow, look at the weather. This is probably the second day of sun we've had in an eternity. It feels like a whole winter we haven't had this weather, and suddenly it's come in and it's probably 11 degrees today. So I've been taking full advantage of getting around the lake, and when I've been clipping the bushes at the top end, I've noticed there's been fish getting into certain areas of the lake right up tight, like really bizarre behaviour, but they're obviously there for a reason, and hopefully today I'm going to find out why. I've got my little net. This takes me back to when I was a little boy, and natural food is prevalent in all lakes, but at particular times of the year those fish are really switched on to natural food, and I'm hoping I'm going to go out and see what those fish were feeding on the other day, because they were very localised in certain little patches, and yeah, be interesting to see what was drawing them there, because you're spending a lot of time there. So with the aid of this and my trusty old waders, I'm going to get out and have a look. Well, this was the area where these fish were. Aha! And I think I found the answer. There's absolutely loads and loads of shrimps. That's a few scoops there. And what I think's happened is where this water level's obviously gone up over the winter, it's flooded parts of the lake which were usually obviously bank where people were fishing. And what's that happened over the course of the winter, all these shrimps, snails, everything's able to colonise in these areas unmolested by the fish, which are spending large parts of their time out in the middle in the winter months. And now the temperature's up, you get another effect of a lot of naturals will gravitate to this warmer part of the lake, and the fish too. And the fish are in for two reasons. One, it's a bit warmer than the rest of the lake, and two, and the most important one, and why I've seen these fish feed in here, is there's loads of natural food that are making their way up the shelf, chasing the warm water. Coupled with the fact that they've been unmolested all winter, there's loads of them here, and I've got in the net here, crikey, a few hundred shrimps there, and a snail. It just goes to show that everything is here for the carp, and when there's not a lot of bait going in, these fish are so switched on. So I'm going to get a couple more scoops, I think, and I'll show you. I'll get back on the bank and show you. Wow, do you know what? I would not have found that with a marker float, absolutely no chance. But just a few scoops out there has given us an absolute bounty of natural food. There are hundreds of shrimps here. We've got a little damsel nymph I can see, and also a snail I think I had somewhere. So yeah, all this food is all gravitating towards the shallow water, the warm water. And it's a little surprise the carp are very close behind them, because all the carp want to do, they come out of the winter, they want to get rid of all their parasites, and they'll be jumping and leaping and flicking off snags. And next on the agenda is getting a bit of sun on their backs, getting warm, but also natural food. And the natural food is colonising here for the reasons I said earlier. There's absolutely loads of it here, and when I've walked around the lakes and spotted those fish, it was so interesting to see what they're feeding on, and this is the reason why they're here. And today we've got a beautiful day in amongst all the rain that we've had, and you know what, tomorrow is going to be the carbon copy of today, and I can't help thinking that these fish are going to turn up on these little shallow areas. So I've already got some rods ready back home in the garage, and I think tomorrow afternoon I'm just going to give myself a few hours, just plop some rods on these natural food larders, because if you can get bait close to these natural feeding areas during the spring, you've got a great chance of getting a bite. And what's more, if you're using baits that attract these natural food to the baited, to your baited area, you're creating that own natural area where these shrimps and snails are all colonising. So I'm going to do that tomorrow. I'm going to bring a couple of rods back, have a go and see what happens. But wow, that is an eye-opener. There's absolutely loads and loads of food in here. Well, I'm sneaking out over this flooded water out to roughly the same sort of area where I saw these fish the other day, yesterday in fact. So I'm just going to plop these rods out. Conditions look great to be fair, but see if we can drop these down the shelf, sit back, see what happens. I've got a couple of hours before I need to get on really, but yeah, I couldn't resist it. Right, let's get them out. Wow, what a lovely day to be sat out on the bank, and even though it's going to be literally a couple of hours, do you know what, that's sometimes enough for myself. Having a very, very busy bait business and also family, and a young family at that, you know, just trying to find time to get out and do some fishing can be challenging at times, and sometimes even overnight sessions can be, you know, a lot of time, you know, to be away from things. So just having these couple of hours for me just is that escapism, and you can get down and just lose yourself in a lovely bit of nature as well. And we're now into March, everything's greening up. We've had a few days of sun, not that many, but a few, and right away you can see the birds and butterflies and a lot of bees. Everything's active, everything's up and awake, and it's just a lovely time to be on the bank. And if you sit here in silence, you really can just listen and just, you know, while away a couple of hours. So fingers crossed. Who knows, if I catch a fish, that's going to be a massive bonus. If I don't, then do you know what, it's giving my little fix for the week, and yeah, I can always come back again. So I'm just going to sit back, relax, yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, what a lovely day. Well, what should be a nice relaxing couple of hours, I'm maybe an hour into this now, and I can see my spots. I can see where, you know, I can see evidently there's no fish here. So I'm going to up sticks, and for the last, I don't know, 45 minutes or so, and I get around the lake, so I'm sure these fish are going to be still tracking around these margins, and if they're not here, I think the fish have come in and fed, but it's not been enough bait to hold them, they're going to be somewhere else. So I'm going to get on my toes and have a little wander around and see if I can drop it in for the last few minutes. Well, do you know what? I gave it my best shot, but that sun's starting to dip now and it is getting a bit cold. So I think I'm going to chuck my hoodie on and probably come. Oh! Well, talk about last gasp. These fish were just coming through this margin here, like literally rod length out. After all these little bits of naturals and that, I'm sure, in these dying pads, and yeah, he's rattled off. So we got a carp on. Hopefully we'll get him in. He's took some line. Come on. Come on, because I'm going to be late. My missus will be calling me in a minute saying, where are you? Yeah, looks a nice fish. beautiful in the clear water. Oh, go on, get in there. Yes. Happy days. Well happy with that. Chased them round. Feels like forever. 2 hours, 4 swims, and we got a carp. That looks like, yeah, lovely linear, awesome. Well, I haven't done much fishing over the winter period, but you know, it's early spring now, and to have the chance just to get out and nick one is very sweet. The lake hasn't done a lot of fish over the winter. This is probably only the second or third fish since October. So yeah, they're all hard earned in here, and yeah, looks a little cracker that. Well happy. Let's see if I can pop the hook out while I'm here. There we go. Nice little simple little hook link, nothing complicated. Still the odd leech on this one, so these have only just woken up. Lovely. Right, let's see how he's doing. Look at that, it's lovely linear, looks like a male to me. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful, like a fresh penny. But bang on just a fraction over £20. That'll do nicely. Thank you very much. Well, this fella has had me chasing them all around the lake, but I'm glad that finally I managed to get one. Just a little PVA bag in the margins, literally half a rod length out, and they're all getting up really tight. All around the lake I found fish, but they're getting really, really tight to the margin, just picking off those shrimps and snails. And yeah, this one's made me a very, very happy man on what was supposed to be a relaxing afternoon, but it turned out I was chasing them, and yeah, nice to get one in the end. Lovely little fish, this one. Oh, he's got a lovely clean mouth, this one, clear as a whistle. And he's probably evaded capture for the best part of probably 18 months, this one, so great to see him doing well in the lake. And he's now broke through the 20 barrier as well, but a lovely little male fish, this one. Yeah, a little torpedo. Probably stripped about 30 yards of line off me. Well, let's have one last look. If he lets me. Look at that, lovely. Beautiful. This water is absolutely freezing. I can't wait until we get into April, but at the moment this water is absolutely, my toes are freezing. So thank you very much, fella. I'm going to get you back. Yeah, I can't wait to get back down again.
From this evening, I must give the British people a very simple instruction. You must stay at home.
Well, that is well and truly scuppered my plans for any return down the lake. crikey, if I think back a few weeks ago, obviously the coronavirus and that, we all knew it is here, but to actually go into lockdown now, I don't know what it's going to mean over the next few weeks. Hopefully it'll only be a few weeks, who knows, but yeah, I don't know what it's going to mean for all businesses and that. As a bait company who predominantly is a mail order company, then I'm guessing we're okay. I don't know, who knows, so yeah, it's come out of a bit of a shock really. The lake was just waking up as well. I know fish getting everywhere. It's my favourite time of the year, but hey, I think we're all in this situation now, so there's definitely going to be no fishing over the next foreseeable future. Who knows how long it's going to last, crikey. But however, there are loads of stuff we can, I suppose, get on with. I'm going to have a good sort out of my tackle at home. Yeah, and there's plenty of little bait things to do, so yeah, I'm going to ponder this over the next few days and see, just try and digest all of it, because it's a lot to take on. But in the meantime, there's always a bit of bait to do. Well, there can be little doubt that having a mega buoyant hook bait aids some of our rig presentations, particularly the chod rig and the hinge stiff rig comes to mind straight away, and this enables you to fish maybe quite a big hook as well over some weedy areas, and having a standalone pop-up quite high off the deck, in my opinion, catches you carp at certain times of the year. It's a great method. Well, I get a lot of questions about how to make cork ball pop-ups, so I thought I'd run you through how I do them myself. Now, there's loads of ways of doing cork ballers. You can buy cork ballers, you can grab base mix from your bait supplier and do it at home with the use of eggs. But I've wanted to simplify things, particularly at Baitworks for our customers, and this little system here just takes a lot of the headache away with measuring and weighing out and trying to get consistency. So what you get in the pack is literally 60 cork balls, 50 to 60 cork balls in a pot, which you can then use for your cork balls after. You get a little vial of the attractor system that goes into each one of our baits, and this can be applied later, but I'll come on to that a bit later on. And then we come to the important paste. Now, this paste has got all the attractors already infused into it. It's very pliable. It's got our binder system already included, and of course it's in a paste form, so it's very easy to use, and we've taken the headache of getting consistency right, because by far and large, getting the consistency of the paste right means you're either going to succeed and fail when you come to roll your cork balls. So that's the little system. There's a bit of a process, and I find that the best way is to set it all out on a little kitchen table like I've done here, and I've got a little bowl here to my right. Now, in this bowl is egg white, so this is really important. I crack an egg, you take the yolk out, and you just leave the egg white, which is a really hard binder. It's a bit like glue, so what happens is if you put your cork ballers in, like I start off by putting in, I don't know, 10 or 20, or how many cork ballers you want to do, give them a bit of a swirl so they're all coated. When you come to put your paste around this cork ball, it will slide round, and that's really important. If it slides round, there's going to be no air gaps, and one of the biggest things for cork ball pop-ups is not having any air gaps between the paste and the cork ball. Really important, because if you have got those little air gaps, when that goes out into the pond, the paste will swell off the cork ball, and if birds pick up, which they invariably do, they can rip that off. By having this bit of albumin in and around the cork ball, you shake off the excess, and then when you get your paste, it will slide around nice and easy. It takes away all the air, but has another bonus as well, in that it will make the paste really stick and adhere to the cork ball. Now, a lot of guys will historically tie these cork balls on, but I found with this method, particularly with the egg albumin and soaking the cork balls in them for literally a few seconds, means you can pierce them. So whether that's with a baiting needle, or I like to use the bait screws. I find they're so much easier and quicker to use that sort of system than messing around with baiting needles or tying or flossing stuff on. So you can see my cork ball there is literally sometimes you just need to just manoeuvre the paste just round, just to cover any of the little gaps. But using this method means that that paste is really going to stick to that cork ball, and even if a bird dives down and tries to rip it off, it'd just rip off a chunk, but it'd be really difficult to peel anything off. So that's really crucially important. So just rolling up, there it is, there's one done. I've done a few already, they're all ready to go. And when you've done, I don't know, 20, you can do the whole pot, 50 or so. The next process is to just to boil them, just to skin them. And all you need for that is a saucepan. Do it in the kitchen. You can do it on the bank as well. I've boiled them in the kettle before, only with the nice smelling baits, that is. Crikey, you don't want to be doing it with the old fish meals and that, unless you want a tainted cup of tea. But doing them in a little pan of water and just boil them for 60 to 90 seconds. So really quick process. All you're doing is skinning that couple of mil, so it's a very quick process. So I usually find about 60 seconds to a minute is about right. You then leave them on a tea towel, just take off the excess water, and then really importantly then you are just leaving them for at least 4 to 5 days and just air them in a well ventilated room. I wouldn't put them in airing cupboards because I have had problems in the past with the paste shrinking too quickly and it cracks the paste. So just having them on a towel, well ventilated room, out the way of any animals. Made that mistake too many times. The dogs, don't know, I had loads and loads of cork ballers over the years off myself. So I always put them up on a high windowsill, out the way. They will dry naturally over 5 days. They will start to rattle. You'll hear the rattle when you put them in a pot, when you're shaking them about. And then after that, you can start adding anything you want. You can personalise them with your own liquids if you want. You can use the neat flavour profile that goes into them. I usually put a few drops of that, a few little drops of oil, give them a shake, everything hydrates, they're good to go. And believe me, making these little cork ballers at home gives you enormous satisfaction when you catch those carp on the bank. So really easy system. Get out and give it a go. Well, this is not the way I wanted to end a diary piece, but unfortunately with the lockdown all in place, that is how it's going to end, I'm afraid. As a bait business, then we're still trading because we're mail order. Under the government guidelines, we can send out bait. So that is what I'm doing currently. There's still a few people who want to get bait on the shelves, I suppose, for when this all ends. But the true reality is we just don't know when that's going to be at the moment. But rest assured, those fish are only getting bigger down at the lakes. That's what I keep telling myself every day. And we're all soon going to be back out on the bank doing some fishing. But just be aware that, with this virus and that, there's some people who are not going to make it back to the bank. So, taking this bit into perspective and taking a step back, you've got to look at the bigger picture, and your health is health is everything. So I hope that everyone stays safe, and I say this is not the ideal way to end, because I wanted to bring you lots more, particularly with carp's metabolism and the sun, and we were just getting to the best time for fishing of the calendar year, April and May, amazing times. So yeah, that's been taken away from us, but the next time I come back, I'm hoping we're not going to be in lockdown still. I've still got to feed the fish, so I've still got to get down to the lake and give them some food, being that they're livestock. So that's my welcome release, from getting out from the house, as well as coming into work to package up a few of the orders. All the staff here have been furloughed at Baitworks, apart from one guy and myself, so we'll be in getting the orders out the door, but also getting down the lake and feeding them. So yeah, I'll try and cover that as best I can. Obviously the restrictions in place, but yeah, I look forward to seeing a few carp or two, and it won't be long. I'm sure we'll be back on the bank, and this will be a mere blip. So until then, I'm going to get the rest of these orders out for the day, and I look forward to seeing you again on the next one.